Through a child's adventure and imagination, we're reminded that we're never too young to dream. The allure of the playground calls early with a simple innocence. But for some, the playful sounds of laughter will give way to a stronger, more serious cry to be the best. It all begins so soon for these children, but their common dream to one day be an Olympic champion drives them beyond their years. They've seen, they've watched their idols. Images of Nadia soaring to perfection. Through Mary Lou, they felt the power of Olympic gold. And today, the dream is rekindled in the American Cup as the Olympic journey begins again. But the road to glory can be a bumpy ride, and no one knows more about that road than Shannon Miller. At last year's American Cup, Miller went head-to-head with her rival, the favorite Kim Zmeskal. Leading the reigning world champion, Miller saw her title hopes shattered in the final event. The American Cup would have to wait another year. But sometimes disappointment can turn into the highest of success, and Shannon Miller seized the moment in Barcelona. She became America's latest darling, capturing 5 medals. And now, Shannon's the one to beat. But no one compared to Vitaly Sherbo, the most decorated gymnast in Olympic history, struck gold a record 6 times. In the team competition, the pommel horse, the rings, in the vault, the parallel bars, and the all-around competition. Today, Olympians past, present, and future are here for the 1993 McDonald's American Cup. Live inside the Orlando Arena in sunny Central Florida, it is the 1993 McDonald's American Cup, where the elite of the gymnastics world have once again gathered. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Hicks, and when this competition began last night, we had 23 Olympians from 17 different nations vying in the competition. Well, today it has been pared down to the 8 finalists in the men's and women's division. We'll also be ushering in a brand new scoring system, post-Olympic scoring system. We'll be explaining that as our competition goes on today. But first, let's catch you up on what has happened thus far on the competition today in the finals. First of all, on the men's competition, well, the pommel horse, that's already been completed. The men have gone through 1 rotation thus far, and we'll be seeing live action in the vault, the parallel bars, and the horizontal bar. And a look at the latest standings is certainly no surprise, as the favorite, Vitaly Sherbo, leads a couple of Americans, Lance Ringwald and Chris Waller. As we bring in our expert men's commentator, Tim Daggett, certainly no surprise where Vitaly Sherbo is. He won the qualifying event last night, and he really has picked up where he left off in Barcelona. He's been a machine. He is unbelievable. You're going to see the best in the world. He dominated Olympic competition like no other male gymnast has ever done, and he comes here to Orlando, looks like he hasn't missed a beat. But, you know, before this competition, I kind of thought that maybe the distractions that have occurred since the Olympic Games for Vitaly would affect him. He is, after all, a superstar now. He travels the world, does exhibitions, appearances. It's very time-consuming. He's also had one major distraction. He ushered into this world a baby girl along with his wife just the other day. He, however, can't be challenged unless somebody has an incredible day and he has some mistakes. All right, that's a preview of the men's competition. Now let's take a look at the women's competition. And after 1 rotation, Shannon Miller, the favorite, has the lead. The vault has already been completed in the women's competition, and we're about to take a look at some live action from the uneven bars and the women's standings. After 1 rotation, Shannon Miller has the lead over Elena Piscun. and Carrie Strug, but Carrie Strug, in essence, has the lead because she has just completed her rotation in the uneven parallel bar, so it'll be up to Shannon Miller to try to regain the top spot. Let's bring in our women expert commentator, Elfie Schlegel. What can we expect from the women's competition today, Elfie?
Well, Dan, I think everyone expected the two Americans to really be the dominant force in today's competition. I think the surprise was that Carrie Strug was leading the silver Olympic medalist Shannon Miller after the preliminary competition. But if there's going to be an upset, it could come from Elena Piskun from Belarus. She has a lot of difficulty. I think that's a long shot. I'm going to go with my prediction, Shannon Miller, Carrie Strug, but I'm not going to tell you who's 1 and 2.
We're now ready for our next competitor on uneven bars. This one from the United States, Shannon Miller.
job. She's hit all her skilled new dismount.
'15-year-old Shannon Miller, who will turn 16 next Wednesday from Edmond, Oklahoma. The darling of the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona. Shannon finishing second last night in the qualifying competition, Alfie, and we'll again see Shannon Miller's dismount.
We're going to talk about a lot of the new skills in women's gymnastics. This is one of the elements. It's a D move, double layout, beautifully executed. It's a new element for Shannon. Again, a terrific uneven bars routine that could possibly give her the lead.
All right, we'll kick off our live men's competition. Chris Waller, the UCLA grad and the American qualifier, 24 years old. As you can see, finishing second all around in the 1991 McDonald's competition. But as you said at the top of the show, Tim Daggett, these Americans are going to have an awfully hard time keeping up with and catching Vitaly Sherba.
And Chris is going to have an equally difficult time, especially starting out on the vault right here. This is not Chris's forte. He's better on the apparatus as opposed to the leg events of floor exercise and vaulting. Need a lot of power here. Oh, has to bend his knees in the air, and you notice that he puts both his hands down on the mat there. Oh, that's a problem. That's going to be at least 3/10 of a point. Now remember, I said you need to generate a tremendous amount of speed down the runway. His legs should remain completely straight in the air. You notice they're bent, and look at the hands. They just touch the floor. That's going to be at least 3/10 of a point.
Chris Waller underwent heart surgery to correct a defective aorta valve while still in high school, and that has maybe perhaps weakened his legs. But as we take a look at Shannon Miller's score on the uneven bars, a 9-8-1-2, and she is our new leader. And we'll return with more competition from the 1993 McDonald's American Cup in a moment.
This is NBC's Sport World, and today it's brought to you by McDonald's. What you want is what you get, guaranteed.
And we are back in Orlando at the McDonald's American Cup. Chris Waller, the United States, just completing his vault. And the score for Chris Waller, an 8.80. Tim Daggett, we're going to be seeing a lot of low scores with the new scoring system, which has been implemented.
Well, low, Dan, but that is going to hurt him in his bid to stay where he's at. I believe he's currently in third position.
The women's standings after 2 rotations. Shannon Miller regaining the lead after her routine on the uneven parallel bars ahead of her teammate Carrie Strug, and Elena Piskun currently in third place. Piskun from Belarus and a teammate of Vitaly Sherba. And there is Shannon Miller. And after each Olympics, the International Gymnastics Federation changes the scoring values. So what necessarily got gymnasts a 9-8 or a 9-9 in Barcelona may look more like a 9-3 or a 9-4 here in Orlando.
Oh, definitely. And on the men's side, basically what you're looking at, base score, you start at a 9.0. You take D and new E elements. Those are the super difficult skills. A D element receives a 10th bonus, an E, 2/10 bonus. You put D and E elements together in combination, and you can receive up to 2/10 of a point in addition to those skills.
And we've seen more than our share of bobbles and misfortunes for the gymnasts, especially the qualifying last night, Tim. And in the early going today, we've seen the same as we take a look at Sherpa's vault.
And look at this. This is a Yurchenko double twist. And he just does what he's done all day long. He rocks the landing. You know, the critical thing about Vitali is he really hasn't had to upgrade his difficulty as much as the other athletes, so he's not making as many mistakes as the other athletes. As a matter of fact, he's not making any mistakes.
He has been a machine. A 21-year-old from Belarus finished last night's competition more than a full point ahead of his nearest competitor. As we take a look at the women's scoring changes, the women faced with much the same battle.
Dan, very much the same as over on the men's side, but basically the base score is 9.4. The difference here is it was 9.6 last summer in Barcelona. The bonus, the extra 6/10, is coming from combinations. Those are special combinations that we'll be seeing on the balance beam and floor exercise, a maximum of 0.3. And then the other 0.3 comes from extra D and E elements, the most difficulty in gymnastics. But today's competition, they must do at least one D skill.
Back to live action on the beam, Marie Kasuge of Japan, and faltering right off the bat.
Now, she mounted with a very difficult mount. Just to give you an idea of how difficult it is, it's a D element skill. I'll point out as we go throughout the routine what these skills all mean. Again, she's just not on, having a very, very rough time right off the start. That was 3 consecutive layouts in a row. She should have got a 0.2 bonus for that combination, but she doesn't receive that because of the fall.
And remember, every time you fall off the apparatus, it's 5/10 of a point, so she's already a point in the hole right now.
She really is Japan's #1 athlete. She's hung on for a very long time. I guess this is her 4th consecutive American Cup. She likes it down here in Orlando, but she has a lot of difficulty on the balance beam, and the changes are really incredible. The judges, just to give you an idea, the judges are still having a very difficult time getting it all together, so it's going to take some time. A nice punch front on the beam. Now that is worth a D skill. The most difficult element you can do today, and this is another change in gymnastics, is they've now added a new category of E elements, and there are some athletes in the competition that will be throwing those skills. Very nicely done, and back handspring to a pike down. Obviously, with 2 falls already on the balance beam, she's way out of contention. And her dismount, a very difficult dismount. It's an E skill, full twisting, double back, very, very short on her landing.
17-year-old Marie Kasuge of Japan, after a shaky beginning, ends her balance beam routine, and we'll be back to Orlando, back to the Americans. When we return, we'll take a look at Kerri Strugg's beam routine in a moment. Standings after 2 rotations now. The uneven parallel bars routine just completed, and now the women are on the balance beam. Shannon Miller has regained the lead over her American teammate Kerri Strug. And it is Kerri Strug who is just about set to take to the balance beam. Strug, the winner of last night's qualifying competition, and really, she had a great competition last night. Today, she's in 2nd place after 2 rotations, but she finished 1st last night after Shannon Miller fell off the beam. So Kerri Strug looking to regain the lead from Shannon Miller.
Well, Dan, definitely a disadvantage for Shannon, having fallen off the balance beam last night. But Kerri, maybe a bit of a surprise. Everyone expected Shannon Miller to be on top since they've now touted her as the #1 gymnast in the world. There's been some talk as to Tatiana Gutsu, and has she retired or hasn't she? But this event for Kerri, typically she's a worrywart. I don't know how else to say it. She always worries about everything else, outside distractions. But I think after her experience in Barcelona, she's gained a lot more confidence, and that really came through in last night's competition. She's had some changes on the balance beam. Again, Shannon and Kerri haven't had to go through too many changes with the new rules, so they're basically working from the same type of routines that they performed last summer. Here's a big skill. Very well done. Again, that combination is going to give her bonus points. She's starting from a 9.4. She's adding now from there. 0.1, 0.2. This skill, back handspring quarter turn, just to point that out, that's a D skill as well. Of course, Carrie's made a major change in the last year. She left Bella Caroli's School of Gymnastics. Now she's with Steve Nuno in Oklahoma, but it really hasn't affected her gymnastics at all. Beautifully done, 2 layouts. She is dead on. Again, another combination, gaining more bonus points. Here's her dismount. Double back.
Oh, that dismount. That was a good set. Just the dismount, you know?
Steve said just the dismount. What he meant is she did take a step. Of course, that's going to be a slight deduction off her score.
Before this competition began, her coach, Steve Nuno, right there, said that it could indeed be Carrie Strug who emerged as the one to beat, rather than Shannon Miller, who collected all the hardware in Barcelona.
Here's her first major tumbling skill. Back handspring, second back handspring, right to a layout, 2 feet. Again, only 4 inches wide, that bounce beam. That's a very difficult combination. It's a special requirement. And her second skill, 2 layouts in a row. Legs a little bit messy. Few execution errors there, but she was dead on, very solid. And again, a second strong beam routine for Carrie Strug. She doesn't look happy.
Will await. No, she really does.
She never smiles.
And here's the score. 9.65 for Carrie Strug, who says she feeds off the competition with Shannon Miller. Says it takes her abilities to an even higher level as we look at Shannon.
Let's get a good stuck landing today on this double layout, okay? All right.
Meanwhile, the men's competition. Continues. And this is Germany's Andreas Becker on the men's parallel bars. Becker, the 23-year-old from Germany, the top finishing non-unified team member in Barcelona, placing 4th in the all-around, and you can see what Becker has done today. 3rd place after 4 rotations, Tim.
And you know, look at that horse score right there, 9.1. This guy won a bronze medal at the Olympic Games in Barcelona. Probably scored, I think, somewhere around the 9.85 range. He gets a 9.1, did the exact same routine here today that he did in Barcelona. And he's not gotten worse, folks. It's just the scoring system. It's so much more demanding. These athletes have to do much more difficult elements.
And we'll be emphasizing that new scoring system throughout the competition today.
Now remember, the way you get those D and E skills, the way you get the bonus is by doing the big skills. Okay, he's done about 7 elements so far and no bonus whatsoever. So his maximum score up until right here is a 9.0. That combination right there with the hold on the handstand will give him a couple of extra tenths. And a double pike. Very nice routine from Mr. Becker, but once again, we're not going to be looking in the 9.7, 9.8 range. It's going to be in the low 9s because he doesn't have enough bonus to bring in that score.
The former East German, finishing 3rd in last night's qualifying competition, finds himself in the exact same spot right now behind Scherve and Ringnahl. And another look at Becker's routine.
Now, one of the few elements in his exercise that was a bonus skill, his dismount, it's a back toss, and if you keep moving, if you don't stop in this handstand and continue on into a double pike somersault, you get 2 tenths bonus right there.
Becker won the bronze in the pommel horse and the rings in the Olympics, took a silver in the high bar in Barcelona. And the score for Andreas Becker, 9.20. And we'll continue with more from the McDonald's American Cup in Orlando in a moment. and Lance Ringnauld waiting for his parallel bars routine. Lance currently in 3rd place. And we'll remind you that tomorrow there's another great NBA doubleheader here on NBC. First, the Cleveland Cavaliers venture into the Boston Garden to take on the Boston Celtics. Then in Game 2 of our doubleheader, the Portland Trail Blazers square off against the Golden State Warriors. That is if they can field a team with all the injuries they've been having. But our coverage begins at 12:30 p.m. Eastern with NBA Showtime. And now hungry Zoltan Shupala about ready to begin his routine on the parallel bars. Shupala 12th in the all-around in Barcelona.
Currently he's standing in 7th position, so he has a long climb to go. You know, there's another good example. Yes, he did a very difficult skill, and he's going to get some bonus for it. But in gymnastics, you can't just do the hard elements. You have to do them well, because you're going to get a deduction if you don't, and he did. There, oh boy. Very unorthodox style of dismounting the parallel bars.
It appeared his head hit the bar, Tim, as Shupala made his dismount. We'll take another look at it, and indeed he's holding his head. So Shupala escaping what could have been an even more dangerous situation.
Well, you know, they are just pushing the envelope right here. As I said, very unorthodox. Look at this. He's got to time this exactly right. He holds on just a little bit too long, and his body's too close, and ouch, that hurts, folks. Let me tell you, he's very, very fortunate that that didn't turn out a lot worse than that, however.
And Tim, with the new scoring system, these athletes have been forced to make more difficult maneuvers, and they haven't really had a long time to practice those maneuvers. So they're still getting used to the moves that they've been forced into by the scoring system.
Well, that's exactly it. And like I've said before, a guy like Sherba, however, doesn't have to change his routines quite so much because he was ahead of everybody else in the last quadrennium. So he just goes out and maybe makes a change here or there. But this guy, if he wants to keep pace with Sherba, he's really got to upgrade his difficulty.
Well, the top 8 performers from last night's competition made today's final. Shupala finishing 7th in the preliminaries last night. And his Hungarian coach is making sure he feels all right as we take another look at his dismount.
And like I said, just bad timing. Holds on a little. Oh, boy. I got to tell you, I have hit a bar before in my life, and it is not a pleasant feeling.
The score for Zoltan Shupala, a 9:05.
The score for men and Romania was 9.475. And we are now ready for our next women's.
As we take a look at He Shua Mei of China. And let's take a look at what Shua Mei has done so far today in 4th place after 2 rotations.
Dan, I have to say, I love this athlete. I think she's superb, especially on this apparatus. Of course, the Chinese have always been very innovative on this event. Take a look at this mount. Called a Healy twirl. Wouldn't recommend that for everyone out there. This is a move that the gymnasts have stolen from the men's parallel bars, actually. What makes this exercise so special is she has such a nice flow in her choreography, but she has a nice blend of very difficult elements. Now, I'm going to set you up for this full twist. It's the toughest move in gymnastics. She took it out. She did perform that in yesterday's competition. She added a full twist, so downgrading her routine already down to a D. That move was only out of a D. I'm a little bit surprised. Now, she has another layout planned. Perhaps she might throw it in a little later on.
He Shua Mei shooting for a 9.851. That would give her the lead in the women's competition. Shua Mei, a member of the 4th place team in the Olympics this past summer in Barcelona.
Again, the same element and a fall off the balance beam, disastrous 0.5. That's the deduction right there. Now, I'm a little bit surprised. She absolutely nailed that full twist in yesterday's competition. It was gorgeous. I don't quite know what the problem is. There's her combination leap skills. Of course, it's all over with at this point. Her dismount is a combination skill. Again, we're seeing special requirements, special combinations on the balance beam, tumbling down the length of the beam. Beautiful dismount. She ends her routine very well.
Chouamé qualified third last night behind the Americans Kerry Strug and Shannon Miller. But a mishap on the balance beam has perhaps taken any chance she had.
Now, this is a very difficult skill. She's quite capable of throwing a full twist right there, but she chose to do a simple layout well over to the left side, doesn't have a hope of holding on. And of course, a 0.5 deduction. This is an excellent view. You can see just how critical it is to keep those hips and shoulders in line with the balance beam. And at that point, she's already off. 4 inches wide, not a lot of room for error.
Not a lot at all as Chouamé completes her balance beam routine, hoping for a better score. As we move to the men's competition, Lance Ringnauld next up on the parallel bars from the United States.
And Lance, of course, a member of the 1992 team. However, he was the alternate. Did compete in 1988, was the youngest member we've had in 20 years on an Olympic team for the United States of America.
This isn't going to work.
Lance directing traffic out there, saying this is not going to work, folks. You got to move it away a little bit.
Move that cameraman. Now he'll start off with a few Ds right in a row. Watch this. It's a release skill on the parallel bars. He goes back into a strength element. Lance kind of joked with me a little bit earlier in the week about this parallel bar routine, saying maybe it's not as difficult, but he knows the rules quite well. Double pike dismount, and he sticks the landing. Pretty good exercise there. Just that small couple of steps in the handstand.
There you go. I just want a Coke from Kurt Thomas. Sweet. One more, we're going to Disney World.
I would say Lance is pretty loose for the competition today, no doubt about it. Born in Des Moines, Iowa, now lives in Albuquerque, 22-year-old Lance Ringnauld,
etc.
greeting his entire family.
So important in gymnastics. Remember, the last thing the judge sees, the last thing he remembers is this dismount. And if you can do this, if you can stick the landing and win a Coke from Kurt Thomas, you're doing okay.
He was also palling around with Vitaly Sherba before the competition began today.
I'm just going to do...
Well, very different atmosphere we've seen post-Olympics as opposed to pre-Olympics. There wasn't quite the joking around last year, let me assure you of that.
All right, and we'll get Lance Ringnauld's score in the parallel bars as the McDonald's American Cup continues from Orlando. Welcome back to Orlando. Lance Ringnauld's score in the parallel bars at 9.250, but maybe it wasn't what he expected, but he did win a Coke, Tim Daggett, from Kurt Thomas.
As a matter of fact, I think at this point, Lance still owes me a Coke.
As we move to the women's competition, here's an intriguing women's competitor, Luisa Portocarrero from Guatemala, just 15 years old. The only representative at the 91 Worlds from Guatemala, and when she travels and competes, Alfie Schlegel, it's always usually alone.
She is all by herself. She's really a nice story. She's basically a national hero in Guatemala. Last year, she was the Athlete of the Year, the first time ever a female athlete received such an honor. And she just received word prior to coming to the American Cup that she won the Athlete of the Year for all of Central America. And she's going down right after this competition to accept that award. So she's quite a nice story. A great balance beam worker as well. Beautifully done. That's a combination skill, a special combination where she'll receive bonus points.
Now, are we going to see the beam element named in her honor? She has an element named the Portocarrero.
She has a skill, and it'll be coming up a little later on in this routine. It's It's one of the nice things about the sport is you really can leave your name in gymnastics. There are certain skills, if they're unique and accepted by the international committee, they'll be named after you. And that's the Portocarrero right there. You can see she takes full advantage of her forte, which is very flexible. She's an incredibly flexible athlete. You can see the audience appreciates this wonderful execution. Look at that skill. So a nice blend, Dan, going on here of difficulty, flexibility, great dismount, combination skill. Wonderfully done. She fell off in yesterday's competition, so this is a great relief for Luisa.
You just love to say the name, Luisa Portocarrero. From Guatemala, trains in Canada now, immigrated there from Guatemala, and seems to be very happy with her balance beam routine featuring the Portocarrero move. We'll await the score of Luisa.
Louise is actually the national champion in Canada 2 years in a row on this apparatus. Here's her first tumbling skill, the round off back handspring into a layout walkout skill. It's a combination element. We're seeing a lot of those on the balance beam, and that gives her a bonus point. So that is tacked on to that 9.4 score. Again, combination in the dismount. 2 back handsprings to a double back, another bonus skill.
Portocarrero finished 18th in the all-around competition in Barcelona, and we'll await Louisa's score. And move back to the men's competition, which is continuing on the parallel bars. And Marius German from Romania, the oldest competitor in the finals today, Tim. And this guy has been around a long time, has a lot of experience.
He certainly does. He's one of the more exciting competitors in different areas. He shows some extremely difficult skills, like, for example, on floor exercise, didn't need to upgrade his routine whatsoever. Oh, I don't know if you folks heard that at home, but he hit his feet on the ground on that giant swing, and that'll be a deduction. Probably about 2/10 of a point. The same skill, basically, that we saw from Andreas Becker. It's in there because he gets that 1/10 of a point for bonus. Double pike somersault. Has to bend his knees in the air a little bit. That could be called a double tuck somersault. If it is, he'll lose the bonus. That's unfortunate.
Marius German, the 25-year-old Romanian gymnast. As we look at our leader in the women's competition, Shannon Miller. And we'll see more of the leader when we return to Orlando in a moment. You also just watched Luisa Portocarrero of Guatemala complete her balance beam routine in 9.525. And now we go to live competition. Shannon Miller about ready to take to the balance beam. And you have to wonder mentally if last night comes into play, falling off the beam.
Oh, I'm sure she is thinking about that skill last night. I'll just wait for the crowd to die down a little. You know, like Sherbo, and Tim touched on this, he hasn't had to change a whole lot in his routine. Shannon's in very much the same position. She hasn't made too many changes because last year her beam routine far exceeded the difficulty requirements that she needed in Barcelona. There's her first combination skill, beautifully done. Now, she didn't have trouble with that in last night's competition. She is really a master on this apparatus. Very clean, very specific in all her movements. Now, Dan, she must be thinking about it right now because this is the skill that gave her some problems yesterday. Back handspring, 2 layouts. Interesting. She was supposed to throw a 3rd layout. She chose not to do it. That was the one that she actually fell on. Now, that move she just did is a D element, so she's going for a little more bonus. I think after talking to Steve Nuno yesterday, her routine was only scored out of a 9.90, so not a 10-0 like we expect from Shannon Miller. So she's going for it all. Again, another D element. It will give her a bonus because it was done in combination. It's sort of a lot to digest right now, and I'm sure as we see more and more gymnastic events throughout the year, we'll get used to hearing about some of these new changes. So far, she has been flawless. Now, coming up, it will be the only E element we've seen thus far in the competition. She's planning to do a full twisting double back. Can she stick it? Oh.
Oh, a beautiful set. Beautiful set. Okay. And quite a jump. Quite a jump.
Her coach Steve Duno loves her. So does the crowd here in Orlando. She needed a 9.525 to maintain the lead. And the underdog in Barcelona is now expected to win. And Shannon Miller is holding up her end here today so far in Orlando.
Dan, I think they had this planned all along. They were planning to change her routine to make sure that it was scored out of a 10.0, and it obviously paid off. I mean, this athlete could handle anything under pressure. We're going to take a look at this special combination that she did in her opening tumbling run. Back handspring to a layout, to a second layout. Actually, that was the second long combination that she did, the one that she fell off in yesterday's competition. A very difficult dismount. The only E move, remember, that's the most difficult move you can do in women's gymnastics, a full twisting double back in a pike position. Very, very slight hop on the landing, but overall, that was just an awesome beam routine.
Is this the apparatus that Shannon feels most comfortable on? I know that both the perfect 10s in her career have come on the beam, and she seems to have an awful lot of confidence up there.
She's very comfortable on this apparatus, and one of few women that does so much in such a short period of time. And look, that's a rarity. We never see Shannon Miller smile. Never.
9.875 for Shannon Miller. And she'll hold on to her overall lead over her teammate, Carrie Strug. As we move to the men's competition, Chris Waller, the 24-year-old former Illinois high school state champion. Here's a look at what he has done in 6th place after 4 rotations.
And Chris's biggest problem occurred on both the vaulting and the floor. He's in the 8s. I've mentioned it a little earlier that he tends to shine on the apparatus type events. And this is one of them, the parallel bars. Now Chris will do an upgraded routine from what he performed in Barcelona. The skill comes right here. It's called a front toss. Had problems yesterday. Oh, a little bit of a struggle right there. Has to keep moving. Can't stop it all here. A couple of slight hand steps. And a couple steps and a little bit of a wobble on the dismount. A little bit of a roller coaster ride for Chris Waller. Not the routine he wanted on P-bars. A little bit of manufactured emotion there.
He comes from a family of athletes. His dad was a member of the top German junior ski team. His brother a gymnast at Northern Illinois. And he comes from your neck of the woods, Tim Daggett, UCLA grad.
Actually, I trained with Chris towards the end of my career as I was reaching my twilight. Chris was just beginning. A very artistic gymnast. He has helped the United States in many ways, made it a little more artistic.
And the score for Chris Waller in the parallel bars is 9.200 as we look at another reaction from Shannon Miller. More to come from Orlando. Stay with us. Back in Orlando, Florida, the 1993 McDonald's American Cup continues. Dan Hicks along with Elfie Schlegel and Tim Daggett. Let's now go to Gail Gardner, who joins us with this report.
Vitaly Sherbo was truly the golden boy of the '92 Olympics, holder of 6 gold medals. His routine seemed effortless, and at 21, he is charming and personable. But that wasn't quite the case 2 days ago when a nervous and practically frantic Sherbo became a father for the first time. But by showtime last night, he was calmly once again going about the business of being the best male gymnast in the world. While the Soviet Union, as we knew it, was splintering apart, one of its great gymnasts remained rock steady. A paragon of perfection amidst chaos and crisis. It may look like Vitaly Sherbo's hometown of Belarus in winter, but in reality, it's his new home and new life in Pennsylvania's Amish country.
My mother taught me when I was young. The man who cannot cooking, it's not a man.
When he's not cooking, appearing in B-52 videos,
Then we know that we're alive if we weren't sure before.
or receiving prestigious honors like the Jesse Owens Award, Vitaly works out at Penn State, and to this day is overwhelmed by his recognition in the U.S.
In exhibition, when I competed, the people look to me like to God, you know, like to see a live God, you know, because for the people 6 gold medal, it's unbelievable. For me too, but for people it's incredible, you know. And yeah, I like it, but sometimes I want to stay alone because it's bugging me sometimes.
Much of Vitaly's focus this year was on his wife, Irina, and the impending birth of their daughter, helping to emphasize the joy he gets from being around young children.
I don't know why. Every little child, always come to me. I don't know why. There's a little piece of beef. Yeah, it's like piece of beef, piece of pork. It's a little piece, yeah, it's and alive, you know, alive.
Sherbo's Huck Finn looks and charming personality have already won him millions of fans around the world, and his dream is to continue to leave his special mark on the sport.
I want that in future generation will know about me, and I want to leave my name in gymnastics for all life. And I think I made it. I did it.
One of Sherbo's dreams, by the way, is to open a gymnastics school here in the United States. And I would like to ask Elfie and Tim, he is, of course, only 21 years old. And first of all, do you think we will see him in '96 in Atlanta? And in the great tradition of what were known as the Soviet gymnast, where does he stand in that total picture?
Well, you know, I think, Gail, we definitely could see Vitaly in '96. He is just so talented. He's showing us that today. And, you know, after the games in Barcelona, I really felt that Bila Zurchev was still the best gymnast I'd ever seen. But, you know, after watching him this week, I have to tip my hat, I think, to Vitaly Sherbo. He's unbelievable.
He has been a machine, the leader after 4 rotations, and now Vitaly Sherbo ready to take to the parallel bars. A man who is not cooking, he's not a man, according to Vitaly Sherbo.
And almost a joke, needs a low 8 to retain his lead. He will have no problem with that at all. This is actually a conservative routine for Vitaly Sherbo. But watch this. It's so elegant. Everything is perfect. The dismount double pike. My goodness, it's like I'm calling this from voiceover. It's like I'm telling you that he's going to be perfect because I've already seen the routine. I just know, I can see the momentum, that he's not going to make any mistakes. It's incredible.
21-year-old from Belarus, 6 gold medals at the Olympics, the most decorated gymnast in Olympic history.
Watch how smooth he is. He just flies in the air, perfect rhythm, extended body. He keeps moving, gives him an extra 10th of bonus, double pike. Look at how tight he is in the air, and then he just nails the landing.
Would you like to translate for us, Tim?
He said, I can't believe I'm so perfect.
I think he's a happy, new, proud papa. You know, his wife, Irina, had the baby daughter Thursday night as Vitaly gets the 9.650 score. And Vitaly received a phone call that his wife was in labor and that she couldn't understand the doctor's English. She was in Pennsylvania where Vitaly is training, and we'll finish up that story when we return to Orlando.
In their first international meet since the Olympic Games, the American athletes competing here unveiled a new look. And Mike Jackie is with me. And Mike, tell me about Reebok's involvement with the new uniforms.
Well, Reebok is USA Gymnastics' newest sponsor, and this partnership allows us to capitalize on Reebok's design and manufacturing, merchandising, and marketing capabilities. We have a bold new look. You can obviously see the Reebok influence. We're real excited about the colors. The athletes are thrilled with it. I think it's going to make a great statement for gymnastics, and it'd be very exciting for all of us.
And we welcome you back live to Orlando Arena, the McDonald's American Cup, the women's standings after 3 rotations. And as expected, we are getting our duel between Shannon Miller and Carrie Strug. Miller right now about 0.4 of a point ahead of Carrie Strug as the floor exercise is still to come. In the men's, Vitaly Sherabo, a huge lead over Lance Ringnahl of the United States, nearly 1.5 points better than Lance. Andreas Becker of Germany in third. These the standings after 5 rotations. And we'll remind you that if any of the competitors scores a perfect 10 this afternoon, McDonald's will donate $1,000 to his or her Olympic training fund. All a part of McDonald's helping Olympic dreams come true. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. Nobody's going to score that 10. One point I want to make at this juncture here is that although the athletes, both men and women, are scoring a little bit lower this year, when we get a little bit closer to the Olympic Games, come 1994-95, they'll have mastered many of these elements that they need to get those 9.8s, 9.9s, and even the perfect 10.0. This is the way the judges want it. They want to be able to differentiate the gymnast and to raise the entire level of gymnastics. And the gymnasts, they certainly will. They'll rise to that occasion.
It sounds to me, Tim, like you do agree with this new scoring system. You talk to some of the coaches around the arena. They have some other different feelings about it. As we look at Zoltan Shupala, about ready to take to the high bar.
Nobody likes to go down in life. You know, if you've been scoring 9.9s, you don't like to get a 9.2. But as long as it's relative and as long as you keep that in mind, then it really shouldn't be that big of a problem. Speaking of problems, he is having his right here. He's supposed to do 2 releases in a row, but was a little bit too far. Deals with it actually quite well, however. Watch this now. He'll swing on one arm and do a release skill. That'll give him an extra 1/10 of a point. Very powerful gymnast on this event. Does one of the biggest triples in the business. Watch this. Triple back somersault. A little bit short on the landing. Boy, these guys are trying to make a liar out of me here today. Never seen them do that before.
Another look at Zoltan Shupala's dismount, a member of Hungary's 9th place team in the Olympics this past summer.
He really gets some speed going around the bar here. 3 flips, really just doesn't pull quite as hard as he needs to. And, you know, that comes down to concentration right there. He could have kept his hands off the ground.
And there's an American who can swing it on the high bar as well. Lance Ringnahl. We'll see his routine when we return to Orlando in a moment. Welcome back to Orlando. Hei Shua Mei of China getting set to take to the floor exercise. That is what she has done after 3 rotations in 4th place. And we'll remind you that the score of Shupalo was 8.6.
16 years of age. Please welcome back.
Dan, I just want to say I'm really impressed with your pronunciation of these names. That was a tough one. We practiced this one.
The Hei. The Hei.
With a little New York accent. The Hei Shua Mei.
Pretty much makes or loses it for you. The Hei.
What you're going to see on this exercise is not incredibly difficult tumbling, but take a look at her choreography. She has some beautiful skills. And as I said, she's going to have to really increase the difficulty, especially heading into a world championship year coming up next month.
The final rotation for the women, Hei Shua Mei of China.
Dan, the tumbling was really mediocre. Traditionally, the Chinese are not very strong on this apparatus. Their strengths lie on the uneven bars, the balance beam, but this is really an event where they're going to have to build as far as a team if they're going to be competitive in the world in team gymnastics. So taking a look at her tumbling, just as I said, very, very mediocre, not competitive in today's competition at all. She's going to really have to increase this difficulty. This is a very simple double back. Everyone in the world is doing this skill.
16 years old. Took up gymnastics at a late age 11, just 5 years ago.
Again, it's going to be very difficult to get the top scores in the competition. We've talked about the judging system, and we're expecting to see a lot of difficulty in the tumbling. That's what everybody expects on floor exercise. You can see 9.162, very low.
9.162 for Shua Mei as we move back to the men's competition. And Lance Ringdahl currently second in the overall standings. Here's what he's done this afternoon.
Nothing unbelievable, but no 8s in there, so he hasn't had any major mistakes. And, you know, he is mounting the high bar, which is unquestionably Lance's best event. Everybody remembers Trent Demas and, of course, winning the gold medal for the United States team in Barcelona. Wonderful exercise, but, you know, Lance Ringdahl was the alternate, and a few years before that, it was his time to shine. He's gold medal in the Goodwill Games. He's an incredible performer, as you're seeing right here. Watch this. Beautiful Tkachev. He was actually supposed to keep moving there. He'll do 2 more, though, right here. Very difficult exercise. Said it all day long, but under last year's rules, this would be 9-9. Wow. Great exercise.
Lance Ringdahl, veteran of 1 Olympics and 2 World Championships. He watched from the sideline in Barcelona. But he is the top American so far here this afternoon in Orlando.
We're finished, man. Disney World.
I think that's 2 plugs today.
And these two know each other very well. Lance Ringnauld was palling around with Vitaly Sherbo earlier in the competition.
All right, good way to finish.
Yeah.
They spent a little time together.
They've actually...
Hello, Arena.
They've
Congratulations. Hello, Christina.
He making reference to Christina, Vitaly Sherbo's new little girl. These athletes, as I said, very friendly.
I'm done, family and friends.
They
Time to relax.
toured around the United States as a group.
A 9-4-0 for Lance Ringnauld, but when we return, the floor exercise the American girls take to the mat when we come back. The favorite in the women's competition, Shannon Miller, and our Gail Gardner had a chance to catch up with this Olympic superstar, the 15-year-old Shannon Miller.
Shannon Miller, Kim Zmeskal. It was a rivalry fueled by the press that reached its climax at the Barcelona Games. With billions of eyes watching all over the world, it was Miller who came away with the spoils. But has success spoiled Shannon Miller? That hardly seems to be the case.
A perfect full twisting double somersault, and she rocks the landing. Here it comes, the dismount. Stick it. Oh, she's got it. Wow.
Going in, I really didn't know what to expect. I wanted to hit my routines, so I trained really hard to do that. And I was happy with what I did. It was great bringing 5 medals back to the U.S.
I truly believe that Shannon's the best gymnast that the USA has ever produced.
She certainly stole the show in Barcelona, the shining star on the U.S. bronze medal team. 8 months later, new car in tow, Shannon is back to the basics that brought her to unparalleled heights, more Olympic medals than any other female athlete in Barcelona. Since her return, things have never and really can never be the same. Welcome to Shannonville, formerly Edmond, Oklahoma. Shannon, Shannon everywhere, even in commercials.
Sports and leisure. What woman won the most medals in the 1992 Olympics?
I don't want to brag, but...
The Trivial Pursuit Year in Review Edition. Is anyone not playing this game?
At Dynamo Gymnastics, both Shannon and longtime coach Steve Nuno live up to that name.
Slow down the hurdle, though. Get a nice run coming in. Run came in, then you want hurdle, slow it down. You hurdle forward and pick up the momentum coming back. The motivation that she's gotten from me has been, my opinion, given to her every time she does something. And I think that she feeds off that. I think she feeds off the understanding that I want what's best for her, and I'm willing to tell her right out what she's going to have to do to be the best.
Discipline and tenacity are Shannon's trademarks. She is now training with Kerry Strug, a former Bella Caroli protege. And the union has had a positive effect on both gymnasts. Shannon, finally out from the shadow of another Caroli disciple, Kim Zmeskal, is now alone in the spotlight, but barely thinks about it.
Even though Kim retired, I don't think that's any less motivation, because that's not where I got my motivation all last year and the years before that. It's from me wanting to do the best I can, and from my coaches and family supporting me all through gymnastics. But I think Kerry Strug is at our gym now, and she's pushing me to do my best every day.
Training and school leave some time for signing autographs with her mother and answering the tons of fan mail that she gets, and playing with her dog, Dusty. But always looming for Shannon is the specter of the glorious past and the possibilities that still may lie ahead.
And we're back live at the Orlando Arena, and Shannon Miller can no longer sneak up on the competition. She's about ready to take to the floor. She leads American teammate Carrie Strug, but needs a good routine to win the American Cup. That is what she's done after 3 rotations.
And Dan, last year the showdown was between Shannon Miller, Kim Zmeskal. She all but had the competition wrapped up, but she had a fall in her first tumbling pass. You have to wonder if that's what's going through her mind at this point. No problems today.
The most decorated U.S. athlete at either the past summer or winter games. Shannon Miller completes a day's work at the American Cup. Steve Nuno, her coach.
It was a wonderful exercise. This has been an event that Shannon Miller has wanted to win for a very long time, and they were saying coming into the competition, the only person Shannon Miller had to beat was herself. She still has a little ways to go as far as increasing the difficulty on her routine, but Steve Nuno said he wanted to downplay that today and build her up for the World Championships next month. Her second tumbling pass, this is a similar move that Kim Zmeskal did in her floor routine. 3 whipbacks, there's 1, 2, and a third, and then she moves into a double twist. A relatively easy skill for Shannon, perhaps one of the tumbling events that she'll be looking to upgrade.
And the score for Shannon Miller in the floor exercise, a 9.85. She'll retain the lead and await Carrie Strug, her teammates' routine. And let's go down to Gail Gardner with a special guest. Gail?
All right, Dan, thank you very much. I am here with Mary Lou Retton, of course, the '84 Olympic gold medalist and 3-time champion here. And I think you know better than anyone else what Shannon Miller is going through in this competition.
Absolutely. I think Shannon and my gymnastics careers are very similar. We both went into the Olympics kind of the underdog, came out as pretty successful, and then competed the year after in the American Cup. I can remember in '85 feeling more pressure here at McDonald's American Cup than at the Olympics because, and I'm sure Shannon feels the same way, you're expected to win. The media, the press, the public say, hey, she's an Olympic champion, she should win.
Let me just ask you a quick question about the code of points and the change. I know you have very strong feelings about that.
I don't like it one bit. You know, they do this after each Olympics. They try and what they're trying to do is take away that gray area. And what they're doing is they're having everybody start at a base score, and you've got to earn your points up to the 10. And what it's doing is it's making the sport, in my opinion, much more dangerous and very risky. I mean, we're seeing things here today that are scary to me. And I mean, this is what gymnastics is my life.
Yeah. Okay, Mary Lou, thank you so much. Let's go back up to Dan.
All right, Gail, thank you very much. Mary Lou Retton talking further about the scoring system, and I think her comments are in line with Shannon Miller's coach's comments. Steve Nuno thinks it's discouraging the athletes as well.
Well, Dan, he has said it is discouraging the athletes, but one thing Steve Nuno has said is they do have to build up towards the bigger competition, so he knows his athletes have a long way to go.
All right, Chris Waller in the high bar.
Chris has had a few problems today. We saw him struggle a bit on the parallel bars and vaulting in particular. But he tends to shine on the apparatus, as we've said over and over. Slight mistake right there. Watch this, though. Beautiful laid-out release skill. 2 in a row right here. The thing you have to remember, though, these release skills, although they do them so easy now, weren't even thought of being done 10 years ago. And a lot of that is because the judges have pushed the athletes a little bit. 2 flips, 2 twists. Oh, yesterday he was under. Today he overrotates the landing.
Waller still with a nice round of applause from the crowd in Orlando. Waller engaged to be married in June of this year. And we'll return to the McDonald's American Cup. Shannon Miller's floor exercise is over with. Coming up. Welcome back to Orlando. The day is over for 24-year-old Chris Waller. Just completed his final rotation of the day on the high bar and a score of 9.05 for Waller. As we move back to the women's competition, Elena Piskun from Belarus set to go in the floor exercise.
Dan, I just wanted to make a quick comment again about the quota points, not to belabor the issue, but it's so easy to criticize so early in the season. This is the first major international competition that we're seeing this code take effect, and I think we need to give it a chance. We need to let things develop and see how everything unfolds leading into the World Championships. And maybe after Birmingham this April, we'll have a better understanding to see how the whole world is handling the new change of the quota points.
Piskun just turned 15 years old.
Had any hope of finishing in the top 3. It was just destroyed after that second tumbling run. She just did a very simple layout, and that is going to cost her dearly. Piskun is very green to international competition. We don't know a whole lot about her. She does tend to throw a lot of difficulty. So one thing I must give her credit for is she's going for it all. She is going for broke. She's trying to do the more difficult skills, but she tends to be a little bit on the sloppy side, and that's where the judges are really going to key in. Her second tumbling run of her floor routine is what gave her some major problems. She was supposed to throw a double twist. There's her whip pass through to a full twist. This is all a combination skill, a very long tumbling run. She caught herself very short, couldn't build the momentum to complete the more difficult element that she should have done right there. And unfortunately, that's just going to kill her. And her last tumbling pass, super difficult. It's a triple twist. It's the most difficult move the women are doing on the floor exercise. That's 3 twists in the air. Yesterday, she over-rotated, fell well out of bounds out of the floor exercise. That move is an E element.
And the 15-year-old from Belarus finds herself in a battle for second place. Shannon Miller's floor routine has made her uncatchable in this competition. So we now focus on a second place battle between Piscoon and American Carrie Strug.
And basically what Piscoon did in that routine, as Alfie pointed out, she opened up the door for the judges, and typically when you see them taking longer to come up with a score, it usually means that somebody has a severe deduction somewhere.
As we head back to the men's competition, the leader,
And we continue on with our competition in rotation 6 men's horizontal
Vitaly Sherba,
for his final performance
needs
for you this
just an
afternoon.
8.00 to retain the lead. No surprises from Sherba today. He has been dominant throughout, last night as well, and today.
You know, I keep saying it, but over the 2 days of competition, he has been more perfect than any gymnast I have ever seen. Whether competing against them or doing this roll right here. Watch this. He'll do 2 releases in a row. That's a new twisting, double lay down somersault, 2 flips, 2 twists. And once again, got to be stuck every dismount in this entire competition.
So the question is, how good can Vitaly Sherba be? Is he better now than he was in Barcelona?
Well, I'll tell you, he was better here than he was in Barcelona. The crowd loves him.
You ready? Just tell him go.
As I said, I think Vitaly is in better shape than he was in Barcelona. And the reason is because he's so relaxed. He's so carefree. Remember, I said he had to bend his knees just a little bit right there. That maybe will be a 1/10 of a point, if that.
And there he is with American Lance Ringnauld. And we understand we have lost the video portion of this telecast. We apologize for those complications. But as soon as we can correct the problem, we will show you Vitaly Sherba's high bar routine again. And we'll return to Orlando in a moment. And we are back in Orlando. We apologize for losing the video portion of our telecast, but we have things straightened out right now, and want to once again show you Vitaly Sherba, the men's leader on the high bar, his final competition of the day.
And of course, this happened a little bit earlier, but just like all day long, look at the landing. I think he has stuck just about everything in the entire competition.
And there is Sherba with his good pal from the American team, Lance Ringnauld. A couple of relieved gymnasts.
Never seen a more relaxed competitor than Vitaly Sherba. You know, he actually may be better here than he was in Barcelona. And I think the reason why is that he is so carefree. He's so relaxed. He knows he's so much better than everybody else in this meet. I think that's what it comes down to.
All right, now looking at 22-year-old Rustam Sharapov, in 4th place after 5 rotations. Sharapov finishing 6th in the qualifying competition last night.
Now, he was a teammate of Vitaly's in Barcelona. He gets to carry his own flag nowadays and hopefully earn some of his individual glory. This is one of the events that he certainly does shine on. Talked with him earlier. Remember, release skills are the most important thing on this event. They still are with the new rules. He does a skill called a Tkachev, or a reverse hex. He'll do a couple of them in a row, and he tells me that he can do 10 in a row, which is just, as a gymnast, this is beyond belief. We'll point it out in the routine. Also notice he's wearing purple pants. This is something new in gymnastics. That right there, however, is a bit of a deduction. He changed the direction of his swing. Now watch this. These are those skills I said. Incredible. He is so high in the air. Now he'll also do a triple back somersault. 3 flips. Oh, just a small little hop on the landing there, but a great routine from Rustem.
And the purple-clad Rustam Sharapov ending his day in Orlando.
He has a couple of built-in deductions in that routine, however, because of the new code. This triple back somersault, although it's very difficult, it gets him a 10th back, but look at the knees. They're a little bit apart. You can see the flexed feet and a little bit of a hop on the landing, so he gets a 10th back, but I'd say he's going to lose at least 2/10 for doing that triple somersault.
He impressed me.
Не хотел подъем разгибом делать. Хорошо, подъем разгибом не хотел делать.
We'll pick up the score of Sharapov in just a moment, but we head back to the women's floor exercise.
For final performance today, Japan's Mari Kusuge.
And this is Mari Kusuge of Japan.
Dan, this audience recognizes this athlete. This is her 3rd consecutive trip here in Orlando. She's the type of gymnast that packs a lot of difficulty in a very short period of time, and you should take a close look at her tumbling. It's fairly spectacular. Her forte is really the tumbling. I think it lacks a little bit in the choreography department. She has pretty dynamic music, but doesn't do a whole lot with it. It tends to lag at times. But once again, her tumbling was pretty spectacular, but she's going to have to work on the choreography side.
Did step out of bounds there, though.
Female gymnasts will have the score for Mari Kusuge, and the competition continues in a moment. You see the score for Mari Kusuge of Japan on the floor at 9.087. And we'll remind you that Rustem Sharapov's score on the high bar from Ukraine, 9.15. And this is Carrie Strug, the final American competitor today. And you see that she needs just an 8.782 to keep her second place position.
That should be a fairly easy task for Carrie, but what's going through her mind right now are some of the new elements she's added to her floor exercise. The first one being her opening tumbling run. It's an E element. tumbling run. She was a little bit short from the very start, both in her opening tumbling pass and the final pass, but I must say she has performed the difficulty. She was going for broke, and it's important to remember she's building this routine towards the World Championship. So even though she couldn't win here today, it was important for Carrie to do these skills because they were brand new for her. Take a look at one of her tumbling runs. Very powerful athlete. There's the full twisting double back in the very last tumbling run. You can see she just snuck her legs underneath her, pulled it out. Must give her a lot of credit. Some athletes would have just let it go and have taken the 0.5 deduction.
Carrie Strug
better than double air yesterday, but still had to recover.
Needing just an 8.782 to maintain second place.
Isn't going up like it is in the
Doesn't
past.
need a perfect 10,
Yeah,
but if she happened to get a perfect 10 this afternoon, McDonald's would donate $1,000 to her Olympic training fund. It's all a part of McDonald's helping Olympic dreams come true. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
You guys are doing okay, you know? One more meet, and we're going to Worlds, and we're going to take this thing, okay? All right? Let's be ready now. Good job.
Well, you heard their coach, Steve Nuno, says we're going to take the Worlds. It's American Cup today. The Worlds is next as Shannon Miller and Carrie Strug finish 1-2.
And, you know, training together side by side every day certainly will help Shannon Miller, and I'm sure it's going to help Carrie Strug as well.
And the score for Carrie Strug easily retains second place in the McDonald's American Cup, the 9.582.
Now,
back live in Orlando at the McDonald's American Cup, a final look at the final standings, and we'll start with the women as Shannon Miller finishes first ahead of her teammate Carrie Strug, followed by Elena Piscune. And in the men's standings, no surprise at all, Vitaly Sherba. He won the qualifying last night rather easily and wins the finals today very impressively. And we'll return to Orlando, but first let's go to our Prudential Studios in New York and join Hannah Storm. Once again, a final look at the women's standings of the 1993 American Cup. Shannon Miller on top of her American teammate Carrie Strug, and that's exactly who our Gail Gardner is with. Gail.
All right, Dan, thank you very much. Here with Shannon Miller and Carrie Strug. And Shannon, of course, I think for you, it was very important coming off the Olympics to show yourself here, especially since this was your forum. Zemeskal was gone and Gutsu was gone as well.
Yeah, I was working on some new skills to throw in this competition, and I was happy with the most of what I did, and I hit all 4 events today, so I'm real glad about that.
Okay, now, Carrie, let me ask you, this has been a new experience for you. After Bella stopped coaching, you had to find yourself a new coach, and so you joined up with Shannon and with Steve Nuno, and you did very well here today. And how important is it that the two of you are working together and feeling that competitive spirit?
Well, I think it helps a lot because we push each other, and, you know, one day Shannon's on top, and hopefully another day I will be. So it's a good way of training because it pushes you to do harder, and it's nice to have someone in the gym that can do that with you.
Okay, you're looking at two young ladies who will be making their mark at the World Championships for sure. Let's go back to Dan.
All right, Gail, thank you very much. And making his mark today, Vitaly Sherba, an easy win for the man from Belarus, beating Lance Ringwald, United States, Andreas Vecker. And we thank you for watching the 1993 McDonald's American Cup from Orlando, where Shannon Miller is the new star, Vitaly Sherba, the new father and the champion of the American Cup for Alfie Schlegel and Tim Daggett and Gail Gardner. I'm Dan Hicks saying so long from Orlando.
Of gymnastics.